I want to start out by thanking my youngest daughter, Megan, who, how cool is it to have a daughter who will not only come to an event like this, but will make sure that my bow tie is at least not perpendicular. Thanks. And I also want to pass on a hello from Patty, who's in Seattle. Our middle daughter, Hannah, is competing in her conference championships for her swim team. This is her last collegiate competition, and when we're done here this evening, I'm going to get on a plane and head out and see her events tomorrow. And the good news for all of you is that that means I am unlikely to go on and on and on, unlike some years. I also want to acknowledge Chancellor Martin and our board chair, Joe Zimlick, Governor Johnson, who's here. I know how busy your last several days have been, so it means a lot to us to have you all here this evening. I have to admit that getting ready for tonight, I was more nervous about this 1870 dinner than I typically have been. And I can trace the source of that nervousness very precisely to the end of last week's Super Bowl halftime show. Beyonce had just finished her act, and I get this text message from Matt Helmer, who's responsible for this event, and it says, "Have some great ideas for the 1870 dinner." Now, if you're me and that doesn't scare you, you're cut from a different bolt of cloth than I am. But as usual, Matt and his team and everybody who's helped serve this dinner has done a wonderful job. Let's give them all a round of applause. A wonderful evening, chance to see old friends, even if for only for a short period of time. Hear some wonderful stories about the world-class programs at Colorado State. It's a night for celebration, particularly when you don't have a 50-minute lecture from me ahead of you. And it's a celebration much like last year when, as Brett said, we gathered at the 1870 dinner to celebrate the conclusion of the first campaign in this university's history, the campaign for Colorado State. And we acknowledged then that part of the success of that campaign was so special because of the backdrop of 4 of the most difficult financial years that this university has ever faced. And we stand here tonight able to tell you that by virtually any measure, we have come through those 4 years better and stronger than we went into them. Consistent record enrollment, consistent record research funding, the university of choice for Colorado, first-generation scholar numbers, retention and graduation rates, academic reputation, public perceptions, alumni participation rates, philanthropic records, and engagement in the life of this city and this state, and so many wonderful service and research stories that speak really to the way this university changes lives, both here and around the world. All of that, of course, is a testament to the incredible quality of the faculty, staff, and students that make up this great university. People who have seized the opportunity to build upon the foundation laid by those who came before us and to write a new chapter of excellence that will be read with pride when the history of this university is written. Of course, none of that would be possible without all of you. We could not have made it through the past 4 years as we have without your tremendous support, and so you've earned a chance to celebrate tonight. You've earned a toast. You've earned our heartfelt gratitude, and you've earned a short speech that ends about here, as near as I can tell. I can give you the first 3. Apparently, I don't have it within my power to give you the short speech. I owe you an apology because instead of ending there, to paraphrase Lincoln, we need, with energy and sleepless vigilance, to look forward. Now, I should point out here, someone told me on the way in that the over-under on how many times I would use Lincoln and land-grant was 4. And trust me on this, that's low. That's not going to get it done. We're going to talk about them way more than 4 times. But if we are vigilant and we look to the future, we can't help but notice a darkness on the horizon. A darkness that portends a storm that we hope will pass us by, but one for which we must begin to prepare now. Despite the recovering economy, you cannot escape the relentless analysis that unless something fundamentally changes in the way in which we entrust resources to our elected officials who work so hard on our behalf, a combination of non-discretionary factors, budget pressures, and budget constraints will crush the discretionary portion of the state's budget to zero within the next decade. Eliminating funding for public higher education, Colorado would, in that circumstance, be the first state ever to defund its higher education system. This is a challenge unprecedented in the 150-year history of land-grant universities. And as tempting as the ostrich approach to trouble may be, this problem will not go away by our ignoring it. In fact, we cannot ignore it. We cannot fail to plan for it because what universities like this offer to future generations is simply too important to allow this to fail. Consider, for example, if Colorado State, if Colorado A&M had not been available for a young Mexican-American woman who has a very strong memory of a time when she was 3 years old, when she and her family went to a church and she wanted to sit on the center aisle, but she was told because of their race they needed to sit at the side. She never forgot that. Not when she applied to CSU as an honors student, not when her advisors suggested she had an aptitude for political science, not when she became the first Mexican-American woman in the United States to serve in a state House of Representatives, not when she went on to become a true advocate and leader for all people. And of course, I couldn't be talking about anyone else other than our alumna, Polly Baca. What if CSU hadn't been available for the young man from Del Norte who grew up in the shadow of Lookout Mountain, far away from the glare of city lights, where the view of the stars on a clear, dark night must have been absolutely spectacular? It must have made an incredible impression on him because he charted his course by those stars, first here to CSU, to our College of Engineering, and then Kent Rominger went on to a career as an astronaut and shuttle commander, where his view of the stars must have been even brighter than we can imagine. What if Colorado A&M hadn't been available for a young black man from Denver, the son of a railroad porter and a National Merit Scholar, who arrived here at CSU only to be denied access to restaurants and lodging because of the color of his skin? But he chose not to view the world through cynical eyes, but went on to hone his leadership skills. Through ROTC, he became the vice president of his student class and a football legend for the Aggies. After graduation, he joined an even more legendary team, and it was with the Tuskegee Airmen that John Mosley rose to the rank of lieutenant colonel and the status of American hero. These people, and so many more like them, from small towns and farms, from families that struggle economically, from families that have never sent anyone to college before, these people are the collective history of America's land-grant universities. And were they here with us this evening, they would tell us that none of us is smart enough, insightful enough, lucky enough to scan the more than 5,000 faces that will pack Moby Gym next fall at Convocation and predict which one of those people will discover a new vaccine, champion a law to improve social justice, lead our government, raise a wonderful family, or write a poem that simply moves our very soul to tears. Make no mistake, we need these people. And the loss of human potential that would occur if we narrow the gates of opportunity to a subset of those who have the ability and have made the choice through their efforts to better their lives, bettering all of ours in the process, the loss of that human potential should be unacceptable, should be repugnant to every one of us who espouses and affirms the American principle of meritocracy. These institutions are too important to have fail. And so that causes us to look around this room and, if we're honest, to ask ourselves a probing question. Are we up to this task? Who are we to save Lincoln's great system of education for the common man? It's a daunting question. Here's one just like it. Who are we, common everyday people from cities and farms across Colorado and across this country, people with diverse backgrounds, with the traditional pressures of everyday life. Who are we to be responsible for finding a path forward to save America's greatest innovative experiment in education, the access to excellence that's provided by land-grant universities? Perhaps we can draw some level of solace, of comfort, even of inspiration from the words of Lincoln, who of course faced challenges that made those that we deal with today pale by comparison. Lincoln's most famous remarks in this vein came, of course, in his famous speech to the U.S. Congress in December 1862, 10 weeks after he had penned the executive order that became the Emancipation Proclamation, and nearly 6 months to the day after signing the Morrill Act that created land-grant universities. And in that speech, Lincoln uttered the words that I'm sure are known to many people in this audience. The dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. Our situation is piled high with difficulty. Our occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. Because our situation is new, we must think anew and act anew. Lincoln, you see, had a very powerful belief in the ability of the persistence of the common citizen to overcome incredible challenges. And he wrote about this frequently. I think that one of his most eloquent statements on this point is, in fact, in a piece of personal correspondence that he sent to a gentleman in July of 1860, where he wrote, and I quote, "I know not how to aid you, save in the assurance of one of mature age and much severe experience, that you cannot fail if you resolutely determine that you will not." Response to challenge. This is one of the things that I believe characterizes the history of Colorado State University. Charles Laurie led this university through the 1918 Spanish influenza epidemic, the Great Depression, and 2 world wars. That's a bad draw of the cards, no matter how you slice it. And I'm confident that he didn't always see what was coming around the next corner, and when he did see it, I'm confident he didn't always know what the right thing to do was. Bill Morgan oversaw the greatest period of growth in the history of this university, including the transition from Colorado A&M to Colorado State University, all occurring against the backdrop of the Vietnam era. I'm willing to bet he spent more than a few sleepless nights staring at a dark ceiling. Now, of course, these men did not navigate the rapids of their day alone. They were aided by people just like those of you in this room, people who share a common bond with all of you, a deep and abiding affection for this great university. Of course, the problem with using history for inspiration is that we know the end of the story. We know Lincoln saved the Union. We know Laurie and Morgan found the right path forward. But we don't know how our story will end. As we sit here in this room, it could be that the defunding challenges we face won't even rise to the level of a footnote when the history of higher education is written. But it could be that this chapter will describe the fall of American public higher education. It's my hope that our actions and the actions of similar-minded people across this nation will instead be remembered as having charted a path to the next 150 years of land-grant university access to excellence. But as we sit here tonight in this room, we don't know the ending, but we can see the challenge all too clearly. And so it becomes our responsibility, the responsibility of the people in this room, to become the champions who will rise to meet this challenge of our day. This falls to us, whether we would accept this challenge or no. If not us, who? If not now, when? Tonight, we begin to build upon the legacy left to us by great men and women a new foundation that will serve this university for its next 150 years. That era begins in the year 2020, and it's my belief that we will stand here that day with pride in our accomplishments, secure in the knowledge that our actions have kept open the possibility that this great university will allow access to everyone who has earned the right to walk these hallowed halls and these beautiful grounds, because our actions will have made sure that her foundation, that our foundation, is strong enough to have withstood the greatest storm of our age. I want to be here in 2020 with all of you when we celebrate that moment. And I want to close with what is for me my favorite of all the things that I know of that Lincoln has written or said. And he wrote it in a piece of correspondence where he was replying to a question that was written to him by a gentleman who was questioning whether Lincoln was up to the challenges he faced. And Lincoln replied with a characteristic humility, directness, and simplicity that still speaks to us very directly across the gulf of a century and a half of time. Lincoln said in this letter, "I do the very best I know how, the very best I can, and I mean to keep doing that until the end." That spirit, to me, characterizes so much of what Colorado State University is about. I came to this university 20 years ago because I believed that it offered me the chance to be my best. And I've stayed because the opportunity, the privilege to work with an amazing group of people and to work with all of you in this room, the next generation of people who care so deeply about this great university, I believe that opportunity gives us the chance to make an important difference. And I would be very proud to play any role, however small, in making that happen. There is so much to be proud of at Colorado State University. And I hope that you are as proud of your university as I am to serve you as her president. Together, I'm confident that we will pen a wonderful ending to our story. Thank you.